Congratulations! We finally reached the final video in this section of our course. In this video, we'll review a few techniques on formatting and general report design to apply a final layer of polish to our report. As a quick review, we've completed the entire list of report requirements for our Power BI report, so the only thing left is a bit of cleanup and design wizardry to really make this report stand out for our clients. More specifically, I'll cover 3 report design techniques to apply that final design polish to our report. The first technique will show us how to change the color theme of our report, giving us greater flexibility in making sure the color theme aligns with the company's color theme. The second technique will show us how to add a background color to our report. This can be very useful to help differentiate your objects from one another and adds a bit of visual flair to the report. The last technique will be showing how to add objects to your report to help frame similar objects or separate sections of your report. The end result will look something very similar to this when we're done. Our report, but with all 3 techniques applied. Taking a closer look, we can see that the color theme has been changed, a background color has been added, and there's even some additional lines and containers added in the slicer area to make that section really stand out. We'll apply all of these in our Power BI report, so let's get started. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is the concept of color themes, and that's something that you can now apply in Power BI very easily. If you come up here to the top section, you'll see that there's an option to switch theme. Now if you click that, you'll notice that there's a bunch of options down here. Default, City Park, all of these let you pick the color palette or the color theme. Now my personal favorite is actually the classroom, so I'm going to go ahead and select that one. And you notice that it changed a lot of the default colors in this report. And we can actually see a lot of that too in terms of the color palette that's changed. If I was to say select this chart here, come over to the Format Painter, and just go to the title section and just look at the color palette, you'll see that that's changed drastically, and now we have an entirely separate set of colors to pick from in here. Now if you wanted to, you can still do custom color, and then you can choose any hex code you want to put into here, but it's really nice to be able to use this quick and easy pick list when you want to assign a color to any object or visual in your report. Now if you're not particularly keen on the colors that are part of the default list in here, you can still import your own theme, and they even have a button that will link you to the website for the theme gallery that has all sorts of user-submitted themes, so there's plenty of options out there for that. So now that I've switched my color palette, I'm just going to quickly clean up the colors on this page and fast forward through that. There we are. Now the only things I really did is I changed the backgrounds to net quantity and net profit, again to green, just because I think those are the standout values that you really want to show as the end or the KPIs for that. And then I just updated the title colors and the visuals themselves as well. Now the other thing that I mentioned that I like to do is I like to add a bit of background color. The thing with background color is it really helps to make your visuals stand out from each other and not get so lost in the white space that you see here currently. So I'm going to come up to the Format Painter, and the only way to get this, by the way, is to make sure you have not selected any visual. So make sure you've clicked off of any currently selected visual, and if you go to the Format Painter, you'll now notice that there is that page background section. And I don't actually want to change the color, because that's just going to assign a single primary color to this. I've actually created a color gradient image in PowerPoint, file that I'm actually going to be providing as well as a part of this video, but I'm going to use the image created from that file and add that to this page. I'm going to add the image, and I have a slate blue gradient background that I want to use. So I'm going to select that. There we go, and go ahead and set that to fit. Perfect. Because this way it makes sure that the entire image is showing and you're not losing any of it behind the scenes. Now to further make this stand out, I really want to make sure that each one of my visuals also have a background color so they're thoroughly separated from the background itself. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to set the background color to white with 0 transparency for every visual you see here. So this one, select that, come over to the Format Painter, go down to background, turn that on, and by default it does set it to white, however the transparency is set to 50%. I'm going to go ahead and slide that down to 0. There we go. And now the other 3 objects that I have on this page, I'm just going to fast forward through applying the same effect on those. There we are. It looks a lot cleaner and more crisp now that we have that clear separation between the background and the foreground. Now the last thing that I want to do here is I'm actually going to add a title to my table as well, just to give it a really consistent look with the rest of the visuals. So click on the table, come up to the Format Painter, go to the title section. I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to call this Geography and Store Details. Give that the same background color and font color as the other ones to keep it consistent. Beautiful. Now there's one final trick and little spin that I like to put into my reports. So you notice that the slicers over on the left aren't contained or held very well. So I'm actually going to create an object that will then hold them in place and look like a frame for slicers all around those. And the way to do that, you can actually create a text box and then put that in the background behind them. So I'm going to create a text box up here at the top. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to actually put any text into here. However, I am going to give that a title. I'm going to turn that on. Call this Slicers. Give that the same white font color. Same background color as the other ones. Put that up to an 11. There we go. And I'm also going to turn on the background for it just as well. Turn down the transparency to 0. There we are. It's starting to come into shape. And now I'm going to put this over here. And I'm going to resize this a little bit. There we are. And the trick though to this is making sure you select this, come up to the format painter and say, send to back. There we are. Now as soon as I click off of it, it's starting to clean up a little bit. Now I'm going to fast forward through a bit of formatting. I'm just going to resize a few things quickly just to make them fit well. There we are. It's created a nice clean container that holds it in place and really allows that to, again, separate itself from the background. Now you might have noticed that right next to it, I left a little bit of a gap. That's going to be the last technique that I'm going to apply into here, is also using objects that are non-data objects to help further frame sections of the report. I want to have a bit of a separation between the slicers and the visuals themselves. And you can add these anywhere, but there's a really nice option to add some lines to make the report really stand out. So I'm going to come up to the top ribbon here. I'm going to select Shapes. I'm going to select Line. And it's going to add a line to my page. I'm going to resize this a little bit. There we go. Go ahead and put that right here. Bring that all the way down. There we go. And I can even scoot these over just a tiny bit. There we go. And those can be used in a lot of places, but it creates a nice dividing line to help organize and separate or compartmentalize portions of your report page. And there you have it. 3 techniques, which don't actually take that much time or effort, but really add a lot of value and look and feel to the report that can go a long way to delivering something that looks really polished to the client. So that about covers it for this entire section. We've now built the completed entire report that we need for our client. So in the next section, we're going to explore how to publish this to PowerBI.com and also talk about important features of the Power BI service.